All right, it's Wednesday, March 5th. This is an end of the day SPY recap. And today on the daily chart, we end up with kind of an inside green bar. We're inside the high and low of the previous day, closed a little green. And what's developing here, context-wise, has been discussed, is on the weekly chart here, we've had a run to the target below where we made higher highs up here, and 3 weeks in a row we came down and took out that anticipated target. So this now becomes exhaustion risk on the sell side in terms of, strong follow through. And it also becomes a potential reversal area to the upside. So we don't really know what's going to unfold until we get a little more information. So again, not surprising at all that when you come to this inflection point, which is exhaustion risk one way, and yet you don't know if a reversal is going to occur the other way, that you end up with a little indecision, in the very short run. And we start looking for the clues as to what's happening next. So what developed here then, in my opinion, is we have an inside bar, and that creates our first potential opportunity on a inside bar failure. And what that means is, should we come up a little bit on the inside bar, a 2-up day tomorrow, and then eventually come back through the midpoint of that bar, then that is pretty strong signal that we're going to head to the bottom and possibly break out and go a lot lower, in the bigger picture to some lower targets down here. It's the start of that anyway. Same thing on the downside. If we start lower and can't really follow through, kind of like these last 2 days, come back up through the midpoint, that could be a very good sign to buy, expecting to head to the top of the range and seeing if we get maybe a major reversal all the way back up. So those are the things that are starting to unfold here with this inside bar. Of course, we're going to have to see how this weekly chart, ends up closing. It's red at the moment, trying to get a buying tail. We still have 2 days to go, so anything can happen in terms of how this bar closes. Are we going to get something with a big hammer bar up here that could lead to a potential reversal, a 2-up next week? Or is it going to close pretty strongly red and you almost anticipate we're having a hard time, getting a reversal to the upside, and it's just a pause in this area and we can go a lot lower? We're going to find out how this bar closes. Same thing like last week. We were pretty strongly red up until the very last day, where we had a pretty big, buying day on a Friday, I believe. So, you have to wait and see towards the end of the week how this thing closes. But for now, we're pausing at the bottom of a key area, and that's why it's not surprising to get indecision, and in this case, an inside bar. And it's kind of hard to trade that, in the very short run. Today, for example, what you had was a lot of consolidation early, and I shot some videos on that. I bought some puts here when it was forming a red bar, like an hour into trading or something like that, and eventually it did take out the lows of the day, which I was expecting, and I was going to see if it took out this key area here, which brought in a lot of buying the other day, and instead you got a big green bar. So I took a small gain here, and then I shot a kind of a midday update saying how I kind of anticipated as we're coming up, we're going to take out the high of the day, and once we get through there, we'll see if at that inflection point, if we fail or not, and if not, then we could take out the pre-market highs. And that's kind of what happened. We went up there, a little bit of a pause, no real failure bar. We stayed inside of that green bar for a few bars. Then we went up, took out the pre-market highs. Again, no big failure up here at all, just a lot of consolidation, and we closed near the highs of the day. But it's still just an inside bar. So at this point, with this trading range in play, we could, if we start in the middle here tomorrow, we can play any kind of opening price action up or down and kind of expect to test these areas, but be very nimble. If it's going to try a breakout, we want that breakout to really, strongly follow through to confirm it. If not, there could be a failure developing here, either, starting up and then coming back down, or down, coming back up. So that's what we'll go over tomorrow once it unfolds. But for now, essentially one inside day, but 2 days of consolidation at a key area here where we're trying to determine, could this be a potential reversal area to the upside, or is it going to just pause and go a lot lower? And we're going to, in time, there'll be a pretty good signal as to what's unfolding. But for now, we want to see how this weekly chart, which is early in the month here, this is the first week, we have plenty of time for this weekly chart to maybe probe lower and then get a 2-up and really start the reversal in the big picture, or it could just, in the next couple of weeks, just pause here, not really have any sign of reversing up, and that means, we probably are going to start heading lower to some other targets here below. So that's what's unfolding. It's still early in the month, so it's hard to know what's developing. This is our first sign today of an inside bar, which may, you had to know that was tricky trading in just an area where you don't really know what's going to unfold, and that's why you had to be pretty nimble with any trades in this environment. And now we get to see for the first time inside bar. Are we going to get a breakout one way or the other, or is this going to be a failure in here? And that'll be if it's a failure, it's a pretty good trade. So that's something to keep in mind if you're, thinking about trading the SPY. The breakouts, be pretty nimble because they could fail. So it's something to try, but I'd be more nimble on that one way or the other. And the failure at this point is the better trade should it unfold, but you don't know what price action is going to do. So let's keep that in mind going forward. Key inflection point here. Are we pausing for a big reversal, or are we pausing just to eventually go a lot lower? We will find that out maybe, later this week or certainly in the weeks ahead.